she said, my name is Hannah, and I am an associate pastor at St. Paul in Ocean Springs, and my husband is as well. So that's been really fun. He'll be preaching a little bit later this morning. But we both just graduated seminary this summer and have launched into ministry. So we're really new at it and just trusting the Lord and having a great time doing it. So I'm very thankful to get to be here this morning. I've heard so many good things about the bridge, and I've gotten to meet Leanne a few times, but I'm looking forward to getting to know her better as we live nearby now. So, and then this week, as we all know, is Thanksgiving week. And we all take time to think about what we're thankful for what God has done in our lives, thankful for how God has blessed us in so many ways. And the most important thing, the most thankful that I am is for the amazing God that we serve, the amazing God that we get to be in relationship with. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. We heard from Psalm 139. Our God really is amazing. He loves us unconditionally. He cares about us with such intentionality. He's actively involved in every single part of our lives. What an amazing God that we serve. And this psalm is broken down into 4 different sections that we're going to look at. And the first 6 verses focus on the fact that God knows us. So I'm going to read the first 6 verses again. It says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain." You may or may not have noticed, but the word know is used several times in this section, over and over, hitting home the point that God knows us. God knows us fully and completely. And God knows us so well, so completely, that what this section talks about can feel a little bit invasive. God searching us and knowing us in every single way, knowing our every movement, when we get up, when we lie down, God knowing every single word even before we say it, God even knowing our every thought that we think. This can be a little bit uncomfortable to think about. For anybody to know us this intimately is a little bit scary, as we like to keep our deepest thoughts, our deepest insecurities to ourselves. And it can be hard to not want to hide, especially our messiness and our sin. We want to cover that part up and tuck it away, especially from God. But God can handle those things. And God is safe for us to be vulnerable with. God's seen our worst, yet he still loves us unconditionally. God knows us completely, and he loves us completely, no matter what. In healthy marriages, friendships portray this relationship between us and God in a beautiful way. When we trust our spouses, we feel the freedom to be fully vulnerable, fully known by one another with all of our flaws and insecurities exposed. And despite our messiness, we can be fully loved and cherished by a spouse through the love of God in them. But we can often fall short. We can get frustrated, neglect the needs of our significant others at times, but God never does. God loves us perfectly. He doesn't neglect us. He's always thinking of us, always there for us, always caring for us and loving us despite our flaws. In this section of Psalm 139, it ends with the imagery of God hemming us in and laying his hand upon us. And this can sound a little bit like being trapped in, being hemmed in and closed off. But instead, this is an image of closeness, an image of intimacy between us and God, an image of protection as God keeps us secure and is a safe refuge for us. Because God is safe to be vulnerable with, and he is drawing us into close and intimate relationship with him. So the next 6 verses, verses 7 through 12, these focus on the fact that God is always with us. So I'm going to read it again. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. These verses show us that God is with us. God is everywhere and will always be with us. And when I was younger, there were 2 people that I thought were with me all the time. There are 2 people that I thought could be everywhere at one time and could know everything about me. And one of those was God, because I was raised in the church and I was taught by my parents that God was with me. God was everywhere. God knew everything and could do anything. But then the other person that I thought could do this too was Santa Claus. I used to think that all these things that these verses are talking about, God, were true of Santa as well. And this is not because my pastors or the church taught me that Santa was similar to God, but the way our movies and our stories describe Santa is that he's present everywhere, because he can be all over the world in one night. And they describe Santa as all-knowing because he knows what we do and what we say. He knows whether we've been good or whether we've been bad. And Santa takes notes to decide whether we're on the naughty or the nice list. And a lot of these attributes of Santa and God are similar. But God is so much greater than Santa. Because instead of simply making naughty and nice lists and leaving it at that, God pursues relationship with us. God sees our good, our bad, and our ugly, and he chooses to walk with us. God cares about us and loves us and wants to be intimate relationship with us. God sticks around for the long haul. And this psalm shows us that there's absolutely nowhere that we can go that God will not go there with us. We can't escape his love. We can't escape his presence. Because even if we were to go to the worst place imaginable, the deepest, the darkest place in the universe, even if we go there, God's presence will be there. And even in our lives' worst circumstance, in our worst sin, our worst times of depression and anxiety, God is still right there with us. And that may be where you are today. God is with you. And even in a place filled with chaos and death, God's presence brings light to the darkness. It brings life in the place of death. And God's love pursues us to the ends of the earth, pursues us even in the darkest places to bring us his saving grace. No matter how far we try to run away from God, no matter how far we try to run toward our sin, run away from what God is calling us to do, we can never outrun God's love and God's presence. God is relentless in his love for us. And some of my favorite verses are found in Romans chapter 8. In verses 35 through 39, further hit home this truth. Nothing can come between us and God's love. It says, "Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution or famine or nakedness or danger or sword? No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus, our Lord." Praise God. He's with us, and nothing can separate us from his love. So the first section focused on God knowing us completely. The second section focused on God always being with us. And our third section highlights God as our creator. So this is verses 13 through 18. They say, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. Your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. How precious to me are your thoughts, God. How vast is the sum of them. Were I to count them, they would outnumber the grains of sand. When I awake, I am still with you." So this section, it focuses on the fact that God made us. It reiterates that point that our God knows us fully. And God knows us so well because he created us. He knows us intimately because he created us with such intentionality. And the phrase, "you knit me together," "you wove me," "you formed me in my mother's womb." This phrase is so beautiful as it describes God's intricate working as he created each of us. He didn't create us haphazardly, but with incredible attention to detail. And God still gives us that same attention every single day of our lives. When God created us, he created us like himself. And often we think of God being so far removed from us, so different from us. But in Genesis, it's clear that God created us to be like him. In Genesis 1:27 says, God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. When God created each of us, he didn't make a mistake. Everything that God made, he saw that it was good. But whenever he created humans, he said, it is very good. And this psalm says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Do you believe this? Do you believe that you're created very good, fearfully and wonderfully made by a perfect creator who doesn't make mistakes? No matter how you might feel about yourself or a lie that someone has told you, I want you to know that you are created in God's image. You are fully known by the God of the universe. You are fully loved by a perfect creator, and you were created with an amazing purpose. And there's a story by Max Lucado that I want to share with you today because it beautifully ties in with the message of Psalm 139. It's one of my favorites, and you may have read or heard it before. It's called You Are Special. And this is a story about a village of wooden people who were all carved by a woodmaker named Eli. Eli created everyone differently. Some were tall, some short, some had big eyes or big noses. And all day, every day, what these wooden people would do was give stickers to one another. They would either give out gold stars or gray dots. The talented, pretty, strong, smart ones always got gold stars. But others who weren't as talented only got gray dots. And Punchinello, a funny name, Punchinello was one who only got gray dots. He couldn't jump very high. His wood was really rough and scarred. He would fall down. He would say silly things. Because of all the gray dots that he received, he began to believe what they were saying about him. He began to believe that he wasn't any good. But one day, he met someone who didn't have any stars or any dots because the stickers just wouldn't stick to her. And Punchinello wanted to be this way too. He didn't want the stickers to stick to him either. So he asked her, how did she do it? She told him she would just go and see Eli, the wood carver. This confused Punchinello because he didn't think that Eli would want to see him. He didn't think that Eli would have time to spend with him. But he decided to try anyway. When he got to Eli's workshop, he heard Eli call his name. Punchinello was shocked because he didn't know that Eli would even know his name. Punchinello began to explain himself why he had so many gray dots, but Eli stopped him. Eli said, I don't care what the others think of you, and you shouldn't either. Who are they to give you stars or dots? What they think doesn't matter. All that matters is what I think, and I think you're pretty special. Punchinello laughed and questioned, me? Special? Why? And Eli replied, because you are mine. I made you. That's why you matter to me. Punchinello told Eli that the reason that he came was because he had met someone who didn't have any stars or dots. And he asked her, why did they not stick to her? And Eli told him, because she has decided that what I think is more important than what they think. The stickers only stick if you let them. The stickers only stick if they matter to you. The more you trust my love, the less you care about the stickers. And as Punchinello was leaving, Eli told him, remember, you are special because I made you, and I don't make mistakes. So Punchinello, he began to trust Eli. He began to only care what Eli thought of him. And one by one, his gray dots started to fall off. Do you ever get tired of trying to earn gold stars? Do you get tired of trying to live up to what the world is saying and caring about what other people think? Do you ever feel like you've been given a lot of gray dots by the world? You feel beaten down by negative thoughts about yourself? Just like Eli showed Punchinello, God is calling us to trust his love, to find our identity and worth in what God says about us. We shouldn't let what anyone other than our perfect Creator define us. It doesn't matter if we're successful in the world's eyes with lots of gold stars or unsuccessful with gray dots. No matter what, our Maker, our Savior, says that you are very good, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. God says, I didn't make a mistake. Jesus believed that you are worth dying for. This story and the first three parts of the prayer clearly reveal God's amazing love for us. God knows us. God's with us. God made us. And God is pursuing and drawing us into deeper and deeper relationship with Him. Just like Eli told Punchinello, God tells us over and over again, you are mine. God says, you're my creation. You're my children. You're my people. I've chosen you. I've called you by name. I'm with you. I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I love you. God keeps saying, you are mine. And God invites us to respond to his great love by saying that we are his, by giving all of ourselves to God. In the final two verses of Psalm 139, verses 23 and 24, they show us how we should respond to the great love of God. This is what we should say. Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. God is calling us to respond to his love with two things, with trust and surrender. Surrendering to God's love means that we trust that God's ways are better than our ways. Surrendering to God means that we give up our need for control. We give up our desire for others to like us, our desire for worldly success. Surrendering to God means giving everything to God. It means committing ourselves fully. Surrendering to God also means trusting God with every part of ourselves as we vulnerably show God everything. We allow God to search our hearts, to know our thoughts, and we allow him to move in power to transform us, to transform our offensive, sinful ways into holiness. We allow him to make us like himself, to make us new, to make us beautiful. Surrendering to God means that we allow God to lead us in his everlasting paths, ways of righteousness, peace, and joy. And today, God is inviting us to respond with thankfulness for his incredible, amazing love. He's a God who knows us, a God who's always with us, a God who created us in his image, a God who perfectly loves us. He deserves all of our thanks and praise. And he deserves all of us. He's calling us to trust his ways and to surrender our lives to him.